The Leadership Rising Up and Digging Deep group met again on August 5th. And this time we focused on the whole idea of relationships, both our own relationships during the time of pandemic and what we're learning about the relationships of the people we work for, the people we support, and even the role that staff play in those relationships. So here's a little summary of some of the key points of what we shared in our time together. Things people have discovered in their own relationships. The phone. People are now having conversations on the phone, talking on the phone, connecting people with the phone, and it's something they really hadn't dealt with in a very long time. Somebody said they found out that being an extrovert is not as draining as they had thought it would be because all these phone calls are making them into almost an extrovert. They found that they've been going deeper with people than they were before. You realize how much you cherish the time you have with the people who mean something to you, and you don't want to waste it just by skimming across the surface. Family means so much to people at this point in time. And somebody pointed out that in our work, it's hard to figure out where family, community, and our work, where one ends and the next begins. There was someone who couldn't be with their mom when she died because of COVID, and that was really challenging, as we would imagine. People were finding that they're doing Zoom calls with friends they had let drift before this time, and trying new cocktails on the Zoom calls and creating new ways of staying in touch with people. For some people, their kids are home now, and that's good. Toddler laughter is always good. People are finding they miss their colleagues. They are knowing their family and neighbors differently, and they're being more open and honest with people. And they're finding there's people, such as me, who miss their grandkids. People are finding they need to be very intentional about maintaining connections and relationships. And finally, someone said something I think resonated for all of us, that everybody is just feeling a lot of gratitude for the people in their lives. And then in small groups, we explored this question of what does it mean for the people we work for, and what is the role that staff is playing there. And there were a whole number of things that came up. For some people, workforce is a challenge. It's just really hard to hire people now when they're needed. For some people, while technology is a wonderful thing, it just doesn't work as well. You know, they need, in order to really relate to people and express themselves, they need to actually be sitting next to someone, being able to touch them for their communication to be understood. And those are particularly often people who we have a harder time understanding and who don't have any family and who are more isolated. Some people have no one but staff. And that has led to some deepening relationships because of that. You need to be really intentional about asking questions of people to help them maintain their connections. And you have to look at new edges and boundaries for how people are going to relate and maintain their relationships and figure out what kind of support they need over time to do that. Relationships between people and the people who work for them are deepening. There was one organization, as they explored these questions, found that they were disconnected from a lot of this information and that they need to go and reconnect with staff. And the conversation pointed them in the directions of questions they need to ask. There has been an impact on relationships being in the survival mode in the work. But even in the survival mode, we can still choose the questions we need to ask. There are 3 divides for people. The digital divide, people who may be good at technology and can access it, and people who don't. The DSP divide, who your DSPs are, whether you have DSPs, your relationship with them, and the regulatory divide, because in some places the regulations really get in the way of relationships. Somebody saw that the supports have been able to be a little bit more individualized in this time, that it's enabled them to move in that direction where they want it to. And some people saw that choice for people in who they see and what they do has really been removed by the system and by their families. And finally, the thing that really resonated with me, one of the last things people said, is that the people who receive supports might have very different answers to the first question than we did. And there was some doubt that many of the people we support would be in the position of feeling gratitude for the relationships that they had. So we will meet again in September. We look forward to having you join us and hope this gives you a good idea of some of what we chatted about.